In March 2025, scientists pointed their radar equipment at the Giza Plateau and found something nobody expected. 8 massive shafts descending 648 meters into solid bedrock. Spiral staircases carved into stone. And at the bottom, 2 enormous cubic chambers the size of 20-story buildings. The pyramids, it turns out, might be the tip of something larger. So there's this thing that happened in March 2025 that kind of blew up the entire conversation about the pyramids. A team of researchers used advanced radar technology that lets them see through solid rock by measuring tiny vibrations on the surface. What they found underneath the Giza Plateau was absolutely wild. We're talking about 8 vertical shafts descending over 2,000 feet into the bedrock. These aren't natural formations, they're cylindrical. They've got spiral pathways carved around the edges like a parking garage ramp, and they connected this massive network of tunnels and chambers that extends for nearly 2 kilometers underneath all 3 main pyramids. At the bottom of these shafts, there are 2 enormous cube-shaped voids. Each one's about 80 meters per side. That's roughly the size of a 20-story building, sitting there, underground, in perfect geometric cubes. For literally hundreds of years, the mainstream story has been that the pyramids are tombs. Pharaoh dies, you build a pyramid, you stick them inside with some gold and some pottery. Seal it up. Done. Except we've never actually found a mummy inside the Great Pyramid. The granite box in the King's Chamber has never contained a body. There's no hieroglyphics inside identifying it as a tomb. And now we're finding out there's an entire underground city beneath the thing that nobody knew existed. The traditional timeline says the Great Pyramid was built around 2560 BCE, during the reign of Pharaoh Khufu. The project supposedly took 20 to 27 years and required moving 2.3 million limestone blocks, some weighing up to 80 tons. The math on that is bonkers. If you're working 10 hours a day for 27 years, you'd need to place 1 block every 2.5 minutes, nonstop, for nearly 3 decades. So how'd they actually do it? The ramp theory has been the go-to explanation. You build a big dirt ramp, drag the stones up, keep extending the ramp as you go higher. The problem is, if you do the math, that ramp would need to be over a mile long to maintain a gradual enough slope. And that ramp itself would contain roughly the same amount of material as the pyramid. So where is it? We've never found archaeological evidence of a ramp that massive anywhere near Giza. A French architect proposed something different. He thinks they used an external ramp, or maybe the bottom third of the pyramid, then switched to an internal spiral ramp that corkscrews up the structure. Technology that uses cosmic rays to see inside solid objects has detected voids at the corners of the pyramid. These might be L-shaped turning rooms where workers used wooden cranes to pivot the blocks 90 degrees before hauling them up the next section. The Grand Gallery, that steep passageway inside the pyramid with all those narrow side ramps and slots carved into the walls, might have been part of the counterweight system. They could have used massive sliding weights to help pull the heaviest granite beams into position for the King's Chamber. But here's where it gets pretty wild. In 2024, researchers proposed that the step pyramid at Saqqara was built using, drumroll please, a hydraulic elevator system. A water-powered elevator in 2600 BCE. There's this massive stone structure near Saqqara that was thought to be a cattle pen. Researchers now think it was actually a dam designed to capture flash floods. The water would flow into a series of sedimentation basins to clean it, then get it directed into a central vertical shaft inside the pyramid. Using wooden floats and ropes, they could raise the water level inside this shaft, and as the water rises, it lifts the stone-laden rafts up to the higher levels of construction. The calculations show this system could lift up to 100 tons of stone at once. The King's Chamber is built entirely from red granite, which has a high quartz content. Quartz is piezoelectric, meaning it converts mechanical vibration into electrical energy. An acoustical engineer found that the chamber has a resonant frequency of about 121 hertz. The granite box at the center resonates at 117 hertz. When you create sound in that space, especially vowel sounds from human chanting, these two frequencies interact and create a beat frequency that closely matches the rhythm of a human heartbeat. The engineer reported that he had a chronic back injury that spontaneously healed after he lay in the granite box and modulated his voice to match the chamber's resonant frequency. His whole body started vibrating with the sound. There's definitely something going on with the acoustic properties of these spaces that we're only beginning to understand. The dimensions of the Great Pyramid seem to encode mathematical constants that shouldn't have been known in 2560 BCE. If you divide the perimeter of the base by twice the height, you get 3.14159. That's pi. And there's this number that keeps showing up, 43,200. If you multiply the height of the pyramid by 43,200, you get the Earth's polar radius. If you multiply the base perimeter by 43,200, you get the Earth's circumference around the equator. The pyramid is aligned to true north within 3 arc minutes of accuracy. That's better than many modern buildings. And I know this is a lot of numbers, but stay with me. The latitude of the Great Pyramid is 29.9792458 degrees north. The speed of light is 299,792,458 meters per second. Same numbers. When you start stacking all of these mathematical relationships on top of each other, it starts to feel like somebody knew what they were doing. Some researchers have proposed that the 3 Giza pyramids were arranged to mirror the 3 stars of Orion's belt. The alignment isn't perfect for how the stars look today, but if you go back to 10,500 BCE, the correlation is much stronger. One study found a correlation coefficient of 0.9993 between the visual brightness of the Orion stars and the relative heights of the pyramids. The probability of that being random chance is less than 3%. In 2014, an archaeologist found large quantities of liquid mercury pooled in tunnels beneath one of the major pyramid temples in Mexico. Mercury is a superconductor when cooled, and it's toxic to mine and transport. Why would ancient builders go through that effort? They also found massive sheets of mica lining chambers of the Sun Pyramid. Mica is an ideal thermal and electrical insulator in modern nuclear energy and space travel. The nearest geological source of mica is 4,600 miles away in Brazil. Somebody transported this stuff halfway across the continent and installed it in these chambers. They also found hundreds of pyrite spheres in the underground passages and powdered magnite coating the walls. When you add it all up, you've got mercury, mica, magnetic minerals, all in these underground chambers. That's technology. Sudan has more pyramids than Egypt. Over 220 of them, built for the rulers of the Kingdom of Kush between 760 and 656 BCE. These pyramids are steeper and smaller than the ones in Giza, sloping at about 70 degrees. The burial chambers weren't inside the pyramids. They were underground, accessed by burial staircases. The pyramid was a solid monument built above the tomb. In 1834, an Italian treasure hunter demolished dozens of structures looking for gold. He destroyed the pyramid of a powerful warrior queen, found her jewelry, sold it, and left the site in ruins. Most of the pyramids you see in photos today are just jagged stumps because of what he did. There's this famous legend about Napoleon. During his Egyptian expedition in 1798, he supposedly spent the night alone inside the king's chamber with nothing but a single candle. He emerged the next morning pale and shaken, refusing to discuss what happened. 23 years later, on his deathbed, someone asked him about that night. He started to answer, but then stopped and said, "What's the use? You would never believe me." The story of the pyramids keeps changing because the technology we use to study them keeps improving. The 2025 discovery of those underground chambers at Giza is probably going to change the conversation again. Maybe the pyramids weren't tombs. Maybe they were part of something bigger, more complex, more sophisticated than we've ever been willing to consider.